Usually, the first $1 million is the hardest to get just because there's so many bumps and bruises that you're gonna have to go through to attain your first $1 million. And when I say first million, I mean that first $1 million in the bank. Now, what does it take to get that? A lot of hard work, a lot of grit. And the reason why the first $1 million is so hard to get in the beginning because you don't know what to do and nobody's there to help you. Now, somebody could walk in one day and just hand you $1 million and you say, that's it. And that happens for some people, but for most of us, that doesn't happen. And just the ways to get it, the ways to get there, you're going to appreciate it so much more working for it. And I know that sounds kind of weird coming from me. And like, who doesn't want to just have a lottery ticket to just receive $1 million? But trust me, those people who win the lottery get that money and they go completely broke not too long after. So the information I give you here is going to be stuff where I know for sure that it works. You can become a millionaire within 1 to 5 years. On average, it's going to take you 3 years to become a millionaire. Just because, or when I say a million, I mean $1 million in the bank, and that's because you don't have the connections, you don't have the know-how, you don't have the bumps and bruises, you haven't suffered yet. You haven't suffered enough yet, and for some reason, it just has to work that way. At least for most of us. Now, this information is vital. If you're in your 20s, you could become a millionaire by the age of 25. You could become a millionaire by the age of 21 if you really listen in and you lock in and learn how to focus. So, first, one great way to hit that spot is going to be commercial real estate or real estate. And this is kind of obvious that commercial real estate can get there real estate, but it's a lot harder to do it than you think. It takes a lot of grit, takes a lot of focus, takes a lot of, not paying attention to anybody else and going in and taking care of business. Now, how do you do this? The fastest way to do it, in my experience, is go to an area, find a house that's broken down in a nice area, buy it, fix it up, and then resell it. That's the fastest way. And if you do that 4 or 5 times in a year, you'll make your $1 million. And I mean a million after taxes. So you'll probably make close to 1.7 million. Um, that's usually the best way to do it. But in other words, get that house in that broken down area, in that broken down house in that nice area, fix it up and resell it. That's the fastest way you're going to do it. I was told that when I was younger, and guess what? It actually does work. But you know what? You don't have any capital. So if you don't have any capital, how do you get capital? This is where it becomes hard, and this is where it's time consuming to actually be able to get your first $1 million. You got to find somebody with capital, and that's where the connections come. Now, I didn't have those connections in the beginning. I had to figure out who to talk to get those connections to be able to get to that first $1 million. And I tell you right now, the fastest way you're going to make those connections is joining a commercial firm, a real estate commercial firm, not a residential one. You need to join a real estate one, commercial real estate, because those are the people that actually have the money to buy these big giant buildings and spend $2-3 million on these buildings. You'll have access to the corporations that buy these buildings, and you'll befriend them. Now, the best way to do that is get a mentor. The mentor is going to already have the connections with these people that can actually connect you with these people that have the capital to be able to go and buy these buildings. What I did when I first got in is I actually went and I spoke and I joined a commercial firm. The commercial firm connected me with other people who had money to actually buy these things. I later went on and did business with them. Now, a caveat to this that most of you can understand is that the connections are going to be instant once you befriend the person you're working with. It's something where it can turn badly quickly when you're dealing with millions of dollars. I've dealt with it on plenty of occasions. You get in there, you do business with them, you're going to get screwed over. It's inevitable. I can say that. I wish I could tell you that it's not going to happen and you can avoid it, but you really can't. Just make sure you do clean business. But when you get in there and you're green and you don't know what you're doing, you try and trust in somebody. They might do you right, but somebody else might do you wrong. This is the bumps and bruises you're going to get learning. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing because you're going to learn for in the future what to do and what not to do. These people with this money, they got this money in a way that they had to go through the same thing, and they're kind of putting you through it at the same time. Also, you got to deal with the fact that people are going to be jealous of your youth. If you're young, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, even if you're in your 40s, you're dealing with people that are in their 50s and 60s. They might get jealous of the fact that you can do so well, make so much money so quickly. And it's almost like, and this is unspoken, and it's just what I've noticed. They're like, this person is 20 years old and already making this much money and has so much life ahead of them. I've dealt with that in many cases where I've gone in and I'm in my mid 20s, and I'm not in my mid 20s anymore. But when I was in my mid 20s, I would go in and I would talk to them and they'd be like, this is too much money for you. This is too much money. And it was something like a $300,000 commission, and they said, "You gotta go get somebody else." They told me that. They said, "This is just too much money. You're too young to be making $300,000." So they made me go get somebody else that was older just to do the same thing, so my commission would be split, and I'd have to split the commission and only get like 150 or something like that. It was such a weird thing, and it was the first time that I was told to my face that you are gonna make too much money off of this. You can't have this alone. So just understand that when you're going into these fields where there's so much money to be made, you're going to deal with a lot of scrutiny if you're young, and you're going to deal with a lot of jealousy because you have so much time and you have so much money that's going to be put in your hand at one time. That's just how it works. I don't understand it. Maybe when I get super old, I'll understand it. I don't know, but uh, it's across the board on there. So you got to watch out for that. You're gonna have people trying to steal from you. You got to watch out for that. And you know what? Like I said, it's not 100% avoidable. It's gonna happen. It happened to me. I trust me. I'm one of these people that counts every dollar, every single thing. And there's one thing you don't understand. It's just gonna slip by you. Just take it as a lesson. Know not to deal with that person anymore. Don't get upset. Don't crash out. Don't get upset. I had a person, and I'm going to tell you this story. I have a friend of mine. I'm not going to say his name. That worked for a very 500 Fortune 500 company. He realized that $10,000 was stolen from him. One of the upper senior managers stole $10,000 from him. And this is a company everyone knows. If I said the company, everybody would know. And he went to the guy and he said, "Hey, you guys took $10,000 from me. What happened? You took my 10 grand." You know what the guy said to him? The guy told him, "Look, you can have your 10 grand back, but you can't work here anymore." Now, this is when we're young. We're just out of college, and he's working at this big corporation where they have millions of dollars, and you got these senior managers that are going to be stealing from you because you're the young guy coming in and you're making this money. So just understand. And long story short, he said, "Okay, keep the 10 grand. I'm gonna keep working here," which was I thought was a punk move. I'd been like, "Give me my 10 grand, I'm gonna leave." And maybe he made the right decision because he got so much more out of staying there. And that's just kind of how this game works. So just like I said, on your first $1 million, you're gonna deal with a lot of scrutiny, a lot of jealousy if you're particularly young. Now, another way to make your first $1 million is when you start a business. Now, you start your business. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, right away, this is the number one way to get to $1 million. Figure out what type of business you want to start. Go to the mayor's office. Go to the local government office. Figure out who they do business with, which is how much money they're going to allot to these businesses, and then open your business based off of that. Now, I have a certain business, and I guess I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I have a certain business that deals with construction and technology. Now, there in construction and technology, our local government, out of 125 billion dollars, 20% of that has to go to local small businesses. Now, I'm a local small business. So what I did was I said, "Okay, I'm going to be part of this 1.100, I think it's 125 billion, and 20% of that's going to us." So now I have access to that. So that's going to be huge contracts. That's going to be contracts for um, 1 million, 8 million, 50 million, 5 million, and you bid on these contracts, and a lot of people want these contracts, but you're in the shaking and moving area. You're in that area, in that realm. Well, guess what? If you get that contract, that's automatic $7 million, $8 million, $50 million. That's that's stuff that people don't understand and don't know that's there. And what I'm telling you right now is that you can go do that today. Open a business. And of course, you got to establish a relationship with these people. And they're going to have to know who you are because guess what? They already have people that are bidding and they know who they want to give it to. And it might take you a year if you go really hard, but if you're in there and you join these networking groups and you get to know people, you can get there much faster. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. Networking groups. Now, this is vital. Networking groups are going to get you further so much faster if you're a business owner. This is almost like if you're getting into commercial real estate and you're going to join a firm, and then the people are going to connect you with the people who have the actual money, and then they're going to let you be able to do other business on the side. If you join the correct networking group, you can go so much further in life. Now, when I say networking group, I don't mean go to some random networking group where there's 100 people and then like everybody's just talking and getting drunk. And no, don't do that. The best networking groups you can go to, do your research, find the networking groups that these government corporations deal with. I mean that these government entities and these corporate entities deal with. Go to your local government branch and say, "Hey, who do you talk to? Who do you work with? Who do you deal with to actually give out these grants or give out these projects to? Like, who do you deal with?" They're gonna give you names of the people to talk to. Then you go and you find those, look up those names on Google, and then you join these networking groups. Now that is gonna be a huge thing that's gonna take over so quickly. You're gonna go so much further. And most of the time, it's going to be networking groups that where it's going to be small, it's going to be intimate. It's not going to be a big giant host of people. You're going to have a small networking group. It's going to be little big these big corporations that are going to be there, the hospitals and the banks, and you know who all those people are. They're going to be there, and it's going to be probably 15 people, and that's what you want. You want it to where it's like 15 to 20 people. Sometimes it's 100 people, that's fine too. And they're in there too. But once it gets to 1,000 and all that stuff, I mean, you don't want to deal with that. But get to the little small corporate, the little small intimate places, because guess what? You have less competition because everybody wants to talk to those big corporations, those big names, and everybody wants to get in good with him. And it's one of these things where you establish a relationship. Now, when I first went to these corporations, I wanted to get started immediately. I'm like, hey, this is what I do. Here's my capability statement. Let's do business, blah, 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 blah. And you got to understand something. These people are in a position where they can change your life overnight, and they got lots of people approaching them. Imagine if you're like, there's a beautiful woman and she's got tons of dudes approaching her. She can take her time with who she wants to pick. The same deal. It's the same deal. So you got to establish a relationship. Remember, people do business with people they like. You got to establish a relationship. Make sure everything's nice. Make sure you're staying in contact with that person, and make sure you're not just genuinely out there just for money or just to do business because they get plenty of that. You want to establish something where it's like, okay, almost like a friendship, or I would say a friendship. You get to know each other. Best way to do is play golf with each other. Go on, ask them about their family, let them know about your family. You're building a relationship. Don't be scared to build a relationship. Do that. And that is what's going to get you further than anything. Just building that relationship and knowing who that person is and knowing that they actually have the connections and the money to get you where you need to go. That will help you get your first $1 million in the bank faster than anything. At least what I know. Now, there are other ways to do it. All I can tell you is the way that I know and what actually works. Now, we've talked about commercial real estate, how to get there in commercial real estate and residential. Residential, you just find a place and fix it up. We've talked about working with the government entities to actually get to your first $1 million. Next, and this is probably vital, and it comes later on if you want to do the 5-year plan. This one's a little longer. You get your business and you sell your business. Now, how is selling your business going to be a way to make $1 million. Now, when you sell a business, and listen to me, when you sell your business, you're taxed at 15%. You're taxed so low that if you sell your business for 1.5, 1.6, 1.8 million, you're only going to pay 15% tax. I've never sold my business, but I've been with friends that have sold their businesses, and that's how they became millionaires. They sold their business and they just said, "Okay, I'm going to sell my business and pay 15% tax and ride off into the sunset." And that's I can tell you I've never done that, but I've seen it done, and it's actually not that bad of a process. It's much easier than you think. Just I guess the harder part is building the business to sell, but actually selling your business. There's a lot of companies that want to buy your small business, and there's a lot of companies that want access to that residual income of a small business. The way you're going to find those people, and listen to me closely, the way you're going to find these people that have the money to buy the businesses is through your CPA. CPAs know where all the money is. There's a CPA that I know that he ran for governor the same time Arnold Schwarzenegger ran for governor, and he would always joke around and say things like, "I know who has all the money," and I get what he meant by that because CPAs actually see who has the money. There's a lot of people faking like they got millions of dollars and riding around in hot cars, like, and trust me, that doesn't mean anything. The most wealthiest people I've seen are the people who walk around. Some of them even look homeless and they drive regular cars. They drive Nissan. No, no, not Nissan. They drive Toyotas and they drive old BMWs. I don't know what that is. The old black BMWs. They own apartment buildings. They own businesses. They own high rises. It's one of these weird things where it's just like, how, like the owner of this place, the owner of the baseball team, the San Francisco Giants. 8 years ago, I actually ended up running into him, and I had no idea it was him. He's walking down the street, and I was like, my friend said, "That's the owner of the Giants." And I said, "Really?" And I went up to him and said, "You're the owner?" He's like, "Yeah." Regular guy walking down the street, minding his own business. Nobody saying no entourage, no 10 million people were following him, no iced out jewelry around his neck, no bling bling, no nothing. This guy had an old suit on and an old suit jacket and some jeans on and just walked down the street. Those are the real guys who have the real money because you know what? They don't want anybody knowing they have it. Why? Because first of all, they don't want to be sued. They don't want to be sued by anybody, so they act like they don't have any money. Second of all, they don't want a bunch of people bothering them, asking them for money or asking them to buy something. So you're gonna have a lot of the most wealthiest people are gonna be incognito, and those are people you want to network with, the people who aren't blingy and flashy. So, like I said, get your CPA. Another way, meet with the CPA, find the best CPA in the city and they usually don't charge. Do a meeting with them. Befriend a solid CPA. Go out right now and look up in on Google, find out who the top CPAs in your city are, and meet with them and do business with them and befriend them. Those people are gonna know who have money in case you need to do something where you want to run a project. And what the CPA is going to do is going to vouch for you. He's going to tell the other guy because the CPA is probably the closest person to the guy with money. That person with money trusts the CPA with their life. They trust them with everything. They let them into anything. They invite them to their family. That is a secret to where if you get to know a CPA that's solid and has connections with other multimillionaires and they like you, they're going to introduce you to them if you want them to, because they're going to see that you have a solid business or you have a solid idea or you have something to where it's like they can bring you that business. So get to meet the CPA. Also, there's lawyers you can meet. I've never done the lawyer thing. I've done the CPA thing and I know it works, but I've been told that lawyers, you can actually go and meet up with lawyers and then they know who to talk to. How that works, I don't know. I don't deal with the lawyer thing, but CPA, I know for sure. So that's a quick synopsis of everything as far as how to get your first $1 million in the bank. We're going to talk again. We're going to keep these things going. I've been a little slow to actually do this, but we'll be more consistent in the future. You can see it's getting a little better in here. We got a microphone.